Breathe slowly. Let the sound of your own quiet, steady breathing be the first note of this reflection. We begin with a question that lies at the very heart of modern life. Hiding in plain sight behind a simple pair of headphones, why do we need music to live our day? In a time when the world pulses with unprecedented speed, when our attention is a fractured, coveted commodity, music has ceased to be an occasional pleasure. It has become a constant, vital presence. It accompanies us on our commutes, guides our workouts, fills the silence during work, and cradles us into sleep. This pervasive necessity opens a profound philosophical inquiry. We must ask ourselves which purpose this constant symphony truly serves. Is music simply high art, a refined structure of harmony and rhythm that elevates the human spirit, nourishing our creativity and joy? Or is it something more complicated, more urgent, a gentle, emotional narcotic that wraps itself around an internal noise we simply do not know how to confront? This internal noise, the anxious stream of thoughts, the unresolved conflicts, the pressure of unfulfilled expectations, is the unacknowledged co-pilot of modern existence. We use music as a perfect sonic blanket to cover this underlying persistent hum of psychological unrest. Ponder the ritual itself. Observe how many people find themselves paralyzed, unable to walk, work, or even think until the correct song or playlist is activated. The act of listening has shifted from a choice to a compulsion. It feels less like a delightful addition to life and more like a necessary precondition for existence. This compulsive dependence reveals the core problem. Silence has become the enemy. The true battle is not against external noise, but against the void created when all external stimulation is removed. It is in that void that we risk meeting our unvarnished self. The silence is the mirror we are afraid to look into. The silence reveals the structural insecurities of our inner architecture, the places where we haven't reconciled our past, where our anxieties about the future reside, and where we carry the weight of roles we no longer wish to play. Music, in this light, offers an elegant, accessible escape. It provides an immediate, external emotional framework, relieving us of the strenuous internal labor of generating our own feelings of focus, calm, or joy. Think of the power of a simple, repeated rhythm. It organizes the chaos of our thoughts. It gives structure to the formlessness of an anxious mind. This organization is profoundly reassuring. When we cannot find rhythm in our schedule, our work, or our relationships, we can instantly import it through our earbuds. But this relief comes with a quiet cost. By outsourcing our emotional regulation to an external source, we may be forfeiting the opportunity to develop true internal resilience. We stop learning how to sit with discomfort, how to process tension naturally, and how to find our own intrinsic cadence. The moment the music fades, the internal noise rushes back in, often louder than before, compelling us to reach for the sonic drug once more. This is the central tension we must explore. The duality of music as both creation and crutch. If our need for music is a desperate attempt to avoid the confrontation with the self that silence demands, then we are using an aesthetic beauty to fuel a psychological avoidance. The song is lovely, but its purpose is fear. In the units that follow, we will dissect this compulsion, examining how this quiet dependency reveals our societal fatigue, our disconnection from nature, and the ultimate danger of medicating the soul instead of understanding its ailment. Let this question settle deeply within you. Why did you reach for sound today? Settle into the stillness. Allow your focus to sharpen, observing the simple fact of your own presence. The philosophical question, is music art or narcotic, resolves itself when we examine the frequency of its use. When a beautiful thing is consumed, not for appreciation, but for constant function, it has crossed the line from leisure into a compulsive daily habit. Like checking a phone or drinking coffee, the need for background sound becomes a non-negotiable part of the routine. Many of us simply cannot function without it. We use music to bridge the emotional gaps between tasks, to mute the awkwardness of public transport, and to create an enforced sense of privacy in a crowded world. The constant stream of sound is not a sign of our deep appreciation for rhythm. It is a clear symptom of our deep fear of emotional neutrality, the compulsion as emotional avoidance. This daily compulsion is fundamentally an act of emotional avoidance. When we initiate a soundtrack for our lives, we are preemptively shaping the emotional climate. We choose music to match the desired mood, focus, energy, calm, effectively outsourcing the task of emotional self-regulation. We avoid the uncomfortable, ambiguous void that exists between emotional states, the time required for the psyche to naturally adjust, to process the residue of the last conversation, or to prepare for the next challenge. This external reliance keeps us psychologically shallow. Instead of developing the deep, internal capacity to sit with discomfort, we reach for the quick, reliable fix. We use rhythm to create structure, melody to conjure feeling, and volume to drown out the most challenging voice of all, our own. The enemy is silence. The true psychological antagonist of the modern mind is silence. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the active presence of unfiltered self-awareness. When the auditory world is stripped away, the psychological doors swing open, allowing the unprocessed debris of our existence to flood the conscious mind. What does silence threaten to reveal? It reveals the anxious monologue, the endless stream of worries about work, finance, and future performance. It exposes the unprocessed grief, the emotional residue of past losses, betrayals, or failures that we never gave ourselves time to mourn fully. And most challenging of all, silence demands that we confront our existential questions, the fundamental queries about purpose and meaning that the constant stimulation of modern life usually keeps at bay. To the anxious, overburdened mind, silence is interpreted as a sign of danger. The sudden lack of input is perceived as a vacuum that must be instantly filled, lest the mind turns on itself, the shield against self-exposure. This brings us to the core of the problem. Music is no longer a melody, but a psychological shield against silence, because silence exposes us to ourselves. The shield operates not by masking sound, but by masking vulnerability. By continuously externalizing our emotional framework, we maintain a sense of control. If the song is driving the feeling is manageable. If the feeling is generated from within the void of silence, it feels unpredictable, overwhelming, and potentially destructive. This compulsive listening is a profound form of self-alienation. We become adept at listening to the complex harmonies of the music, but increasingly deaf to the simple, crucial signals of our own inner life. The music is a beautiful distraction that ensures we never hear the quiet, persistent whisper of our own deepest needs. The cost is immense. We sacrifice the opportunity for deep introspection, the slow, difficult but necessary work of self-reconciliation that happens only in the absence of noise. We choose comfort over self-knowledge, trading momentary ease for long-term psychological dependence. In the next step of our reflection, we will place this modern psychological dependency against the backdrop of history, asking why our ancestors seemed so much less dependent on external musical stimulus. This will lead us to the profound realization that life itself has lost its inherent harmony. Allow this stillness to remain, even as the ideas begin to shift. Rest your body. Allow your mind to drift back through time, seeking the quiet rhythms of the past. The question of our ancestors' relationship with sound is central to our modern crisis. Why did they not require portable devices to fill every moment of transition, labor, or solitude? The answer lies not in their lack of technology, But in the inherent musicality of their lives, our ancestors did not need constant, curated playlists because nature was their conductor and their existence was the orchestra. The symphony of the natural world life for early humanity was woven directly into organic rhythms. Their internal clock was calibrated not by a digital timer, but by the movement of the sun and the moon, the sound of the earth. Their daily soundtrack was composed of the sounds of necessity and nature, the wind sighing through trees, the steady beat of rainfall, the rhythmic thud of feet on soil, the crackle of fire, and the persistent, reassuring hum of biological life. These were complex, ever-changing, yet fundamentally non-anxious sounds. Cyclical existence. Life followed natural cycles of planting and harvest, wakefulness and deep rest. There was a built-in rhythm of flow and cessation. These natural rhythms provided the mind with a stable, predictable framework that eliminated the anxious void of modernity. They lived in a world where the earth literally sang to them, and they were attuned enough to hear it. They did not need external stimulation because their very environment provided rich, complex, and meaningful sensory input that quieted the anxious mind. The mechanization of rhythm. The fundamental shift occurred when the industrial clock replaced the solar clock, and the factory floor replaced the field. Modern life is defined by artificial, linear, and accelerated rhythms. Our time is sliced into measurable, marketable segments. Our focus is scattered by constant digital alerts. The natural flow of the body is disregarded in favor of the relentless, uniform beat of the machine. Linear time. We live in a straight line, obsessed with speed, efficiency, and continuous acceleration. This frantic pace creates internal dissonance, a kind of psychological jet lag, where our internal rhythm cannot keep pace with the external world. The sound of stress. The dominant sounds of our world are mechanical and jarring. Traffic, perpetual buzzing, the high-frequency demands of digital screens. These sounds actively induce tension rather than soothe it. When the organic rhythm of life is replaced by the mechanical rhythm of the clock and the screen, the soul experiences profound disorientation. This disorientation is the silent void that we compulsively try to fill with manufactured melody, the loss of soulful labor. Another critical difference lies in the nature of work. The philosopher recognized that work and the soul were connected for our ancestors. Manual labor, communal tasks, and artisanal creation carried an inherent musicality. The repetitive swing of a tool, the rhythm of a loom, the unified chant of a work song. These were not distractions. They were meditations in motion. The body and mind were synchronized with the task, and the external sound was a byproduct of meaningful action, not a necessary input to endure meaninglessness. Modern labor, by contrast, is often fragmented, abstract, and separated from a tangible result. We stare at screens, deal with data, and perform tasks that lack a clear physical end. This work often feels soulless and demotivating, necessitating a constant external stimulant, music, to inject the missing rhythm and meaning. We use the rhythm to keep our bodies moving and our minds engaged in tasks that intrinsically fail to engage the depth of our being. The conclusion is profound. Our ancestors didn't need music because their life was music. Their existence was a continuous, harmoniously orchestrated flow between self and environment. Our modern life is structurally unmusical, a disorganized, anxious, and fragmented experience. Our compulsive need for headphones is a mournful plea from the soul, desperately trying to re-import the lost organic rhythm that society has engineered out of our environment. In the next unit, we will analyze the direct result of this disconnection, how music serves as a form of collective escape, and the danger of using this external rhythm to suppress the internal pain that desperately needs to be heard. Allow this idea of lost rhythm to settle deeply within you. Rest your mind. Notice the quiet space between the words, that small, neutral pause where true contemplation resides, the compulsive need for external rhythm, born from psychological fear and sociological fragmentation, scales up to become a system of collective escape. Music allows us to participate in a shared, tacit agreement to bypass the difficult, often anxious reality of modern life in a world teeming with uncontrollable information, ecological anxiety, and political polarization. Music offers an immediate, portable sanctuary. Through sound, we can instantly create a peaceful, emotionally curated parallel world. We select the mood, the tempo, and the emotional resolution we desire, overriding the messy, unpredictable emotional input of our immediate surroundings. This collective retreat is powerful. It allows millions of individuals moving anonymously through crowded streets or shared workspaces to maintain a sense of private control and emotional coherence. The headphone wire is the invisible fence separating the individual's desired emotional climate from the unpredictable chaos of the external world. The danger of evasion, the pain that needs to be heard. While this escape provides immediate relief, it carries a profound, hidden danger. Music often prevents us from listening to the pain that needs to be heard. Pain, whether psychological, emotional, or existential, is a signal. It is the psyche's way of commanding attention, demanding a pause, and initiating necessary internal change. Just as physical pain alerts the body to injury, emotional pain alerts the soul to misalignment between our values and our actions, between our pace and our capacity, or between our expectations and reality. When we use music as a steady, reliable emotional suppressant, we quiet this vital signal. We manage the symptom, the distress, without investigating the cause, the misalignment. The sadness becomes merely a backdrop for a melancholy song, rather than a catalyst for deep introspection about loneliness or unfulfilled potential. The song may offer catharsis, but it is often a cheap catharsis, a temporary emotional release that feels fulfilling, but leaves the underlying structural problem untouched. We feel deeply, but we do not act deeply. We substitute aesthetic experience for genuine, transformative emotional labor. The headphone barrier, a declaration of unavailability. The physical act of wearing headphones in public spaces is a potent sociological symbol. It is a quiet yet definitive declaration of emotional unavailability. It tells the world, my internal world is currently occupied. Do not disturb the carefully constructed rhythm. It tells the self, the reality around me, the passing faces, the sounds of human interaction, the awkwardness of silence is too difficult to process without mediation. The headphone barrier transforms shared public space into a collection of private sonic islands. This exacerbates the very emotional isolation that often triggers the need for music in the first place. We seek human connection, but we actively filter out the ambient human environment that might lead to a spontaneous, unscripted moment of genuine interaction. The unfaced emotion. Ultimately, the compulsive need to fill silence confirms the philosophical idea. In every moment we put on headphones, there is a thought or feeling we are trying not to face. What are these avoided tenets of the mind? Existential dread, the terrifying quiet realization of one's own mortality and individual responsibility for meaning. Unfulfilled potential, the relentless internal critique over time wasted or opportunities missed. Profound loneliness, the ache of true emotional solitude, which is amplified in silence but masked by the comforting presence of a voice or instrument. Moral ambiguity, the need to suppress difficult ethical conflicts that lack simple answers. Music becomes the perfect anesthetic for these essential human pains. In our next unit, we will move from the sociological function of music to the deeper question of its nature. Is this dependency a form of psychological disease, an addiction to dopamine, or a legitimate spiritual need for harmony that the modern world has failed to provide. Allow the sound of your own quiet reflection to deepen, settle into the stillness. This is the deepest question of the self. What is the true nature of your desire? When we turn to music for constant solace, we are standing at the intersection of two powerful forces, neurochemistry and philosophy. The external rhythm works because it fulfills an immediate need, but the interpretation of that need determines whether the habit is constructive or corrosive. The scientific lens, the dopamine economy. From a purely scientific standpoint, the effect of music is undeniable and highly efficient. Music is a potent, reliable, and non-toxic delivery system for pleasure hormones, primarily dopamine. Dopamine, the brain's primary chemical messenger for motivation and reward, surges when we encounter predictable patterns and satisfying resolutions, the very essence of music. The anticipation and subsequent delivery of a harmonic chord change, a rhythmic drop, or a sudden emotional shift give the brain a sense of competence and reward. The danger, viewed through this lens, is the potential for behavioral addiction. The modern compulsion to listen continuously is a brain seeking the path of least resistance to reward. Why endure the difficult, slow process of processing anxiety naturally when you can instantly trigger a feeling of peace or focus with a 5-minute track? Music, when used solely for this purpose, becomes a form of emotional self-medication. It treats the symptom, the discomfort of silence, by flooding the system with pleasant chemistry rather than encouraging the difficult cognitive labor required for long-term psychological repair. The relief is instant and temporary, encouraging a cycle of dependency. The philosophical lens, the search for lost harmony. From a philosophical standpoint, the human compulsion to seek rhythm is far older than neurochemistry. It is a fundamental spiritual yearning for structure and meaning. We are creatures of order thrust into a world of chaos. The modern world exacerbates this chaos. It is structurally dissonant, fragmented, and fast. Our existential unease stems from the feeling that life lacks a coherent narrative or a predictable moral center. Music, in this context, is a profound search for logos, the underlying order or divine reason. The perfect structure of a fugue, the satisfying resolution of a chord progression, or the reliable beat of a rhythm section offers a fleeting glimpse of a perfect world. It reassures the soul that structure is possible, that harmony is real, and that resolution is inevitable. This need is not addiction. It is a deep spiritual hunger for the coherence the modern world has engineered out of existence. We seek music because we are unconsciously seeking to reconnect with the music of the spheres. The classical idea that the cosmos is fundamentally harmonious. The distinction, masking pain versus gathering strength. The critical distinction is determined not by the music itself, but by the intent of the listener. If music is used to mask the pain, it is a narcotic. The goal is evasion. The result is psychological stunting, as the necessary work of introspection is delayed indefinitely. If music is used to gather strength to face the pain, it is a tool for consciousness. The goal is integration. The result is resilience, as the emotional boost is used as fuel for difficult self-reflection. The risk of our current cultural moment is that the dopamine economy encourages the first use to dominate the second. We are becoming masters of emotional management, making ourselves feel better, but failing at emotional understanding, knowing why we feel bad. The danger is that we treat our soul's yearning for harmony with a mere chemical solution. We substitute a beautiful, ephemeral sensation for the difficult, permanent work of creating harmony in our own lives, relationships, and actions. In the next part of our reflection, we will examine the two ultimate causes that drive us toward this constant musical evasion. the oppressive sound of our own thoughts, and the profound ache of modern emotional isolation allow the difference between a chemical fix and a spiritual search to settle gently in your awareness, settle into the stillness. To find the cure, we must clearly name the disease. Our dependency on constant musical input is the result of a profound internal deficit, driven by two forces that conspire to make silence unbearable: the clamor of our own minds and the ache of human disconnection, the oppressive sound of the mind. Inner noise. The first root cause is the sheer excessive noise of thoughts and anxiety within the modern psyche. We live in an age of informational overload, where the mind is perpetually stimulated, rarely afforded a moment of true, neutral processing. Unlike external sound, which we can filter or turn off, inner noise, the relentless cycle of worry, planning, self-critique, and unresolved anxieties, is inescapable. This inner clamor is a sign of poor mental hygiene. We have trained our minds to be hyperactive, addicted to anticipating the next demand. When we cease external activity, the mind, unable to transition smoothly to a state of rest, turns its chaotic energy inward. The result is a personal high-frequency drone of anxiety that is louder and more destructive than any external traffic. We reach for music as a psychological diversion. It acts as an external cognitive task, engaging a sufficient part of the brain to quiet the internal monologue without demanding the deep, painful work of addressing the source of the anxiety. We use complexity, the music, to fight complexity, the thoughts, delaying the necessary simplification of our inner life, emotional isolation, the void of unheard dialogue. The second, and perhaps most painful root cause, is emotional isolation. The music becomes a substitute for human warmth. In an era where genuine, deep conversation is often sacrificed for rapid, superficial digital communication, we experience a profound lack of being truly seen and heard by another human being. Real human dialogue, the slow, non-judgmental exchange of vulnerability and presence, is the most effective way to quiet the mind and ground the self. When this essential nourishment is missing, the soul seeks a reliable surrogate. Music fills this void by offering synthetic empathy. The artist, through their song, speaks directly to our specific pain, validates our feeling of loneliness, or conjures a feeling of companionship. We create a relationship with the song, making it a reliable, non-judgmental friend that is always available. The music provides the rhythmic structure of connection without demanding the messy, unpredictable emotional labor of real human vulnerability. This is the great, silent bargain. We trade the potential for true, fulfilling intimacy for the immediate, predictable comfort of a melody. The impatience of modernity. These two causes are amplified by our cultural addiction to instant stimulation. Modern life trains us to be intolerant of process and delay. We expect emotional results immediately. Silence is slow. Processing anxiety is slow. Building genuine intimacy is slow. The mind, trained on rapid digital gratification, lacks the patience required to allow its own healing processes to unfold. We are unwilling to be with the silence long enough for it to transform from a threat into a companion. We crave the instant rhythm, not the slow, organic cadence of a life well lived. This dependency has led us to a final, inescapable realization. The solution is not external. It lies in reversing the habits of a lifetime, in actively seeking the difficult, slow path of silence once more. In the final stages of our reflection, we move to the resolution, proposing the simple yet radical remedies required to rediscover the natural harmony of life. We now move from the root cause analysis to the final, necessary human and philosophical solution. Rest now. The solutions we seek are not complex inventions, but simple rediscoveries and undoing of the habits of haste and avoidance. The fundamental solution to our musical dependence lies in reclaiming the natural soundtrack of existence. We must consciously shift from the habit of playing sound to the deep practice of listening to the world. The rediscovery of organic rhythm. Our ancestors lived musically because they were constantly attuned to the sounds of nature. We must choose to re-engage with these organic rhythms. The sound of the elements. Allow yourself to hear the wind through the glass, the distant, steady drumming of rain, or the rhythmic crash of waves. These sounds are deeply non-anxious. They follow natural, cyclical patterns, offering the mind a sense of order without demanding action or analysis. They remind the brain of the stable, predictable rhythms we lost to the industrial clock, the sound of the self. The most intimate natural music is your own breath. Consciously listening to your inhalation and exhalation provides an immediate, portable anchor to the present moment, quieting the chaotic inner noise. This is the slowest, most authentic rhythm you possess, a biological truth that cannot be simulated or rushed. This conscious listening is an act of decolonizing the ear, freeing it from the tyranny of manufactured stimuli and reconnecting it to the gentle, unscripted music of life. Silence as medicine. Not a void, the most potent remedy, however, is the courageous embrace of silence. We must learn to perceive silence not as a void that must be instantly filled, but as a medicine, a necessary environment for growth and psychological repair. Silence is where integration happens. It is the space required for the emotions we suppress to rise gently, to be named and to be processed. It is the quiet workshop where the chaotic thoughts of the day are sorted, catalogued and discarded, restoring clarity. This requires practicing patience with the self. When the anxiety rushes in during a moment of silence, resist the compulsive urge to reach for the phone or the playlist. Instead, observe the anxiety. Greet it without judgment. Acknowledge its presence. By sitting with the discomfort, you teach your mind that the discomfort is survivable and that the silence is ultimately safe. The courage to sit still and listen to the sound of your own unprocessed life is the ultimate act of self-love and self-reliance. Music as a tool for consciousness. This shift does not require the absolute abandonment of music, but its conscious redefinition. We must transition from using music as a narcotic to escape feeling, to using it as a tool for consciousness, to deepen feeling. Use music purposefully. Use it to initiate deep focus for a task, or to consciously explore a deep emotion, grief, joy, reflection. Set boundaries. Use the music, but do not let the music use you. Create pockets of intentional silence throughout the day. A 5-minute walk without headphones, a quiet dinner, a commute dedicated solely to observation. The deepest philosophical message remains. We do not love music as much as we love the stillness we forget within it. The harmony we seek in the external melody is the harmony we must cultivate internally. The solution is not in stopping the songs, but in learning to listen to ourselves without them. In our final unit, we will synthesize this journey and guide this profound truth into the deepest state of rest. Solidifying the message of peace and inherent harmony, gently release your thoughts. The journey of questioning and analysis is complete. There is nothing left to solve, only to absorb. We have traveled from the anxious compulsion of the modern mind through the lost rhythms of history and into the profound stillness of the self. We have seen that our constant need for music is a symptom of a deeper wound. The fear of being alone with our own unfiltered thoughts, and the ache of emotional isolation. The ultimate discovery of this journey is that the solution to our dependency is not a new song, but a new way of listening. The grand message lies here. We do not love the music as much as we love the stillness we forget within it. We search for external harmony because we crave the internal structure, the sense of order, and the beautiful resolution that music offers. But that stillness, that elusive peace, is not imported. It is unlocked. It is the default state of the human soul, buried beneath the noise of anxiety and the urgency of the world. The final act of surrender, allow this realization to become your final act of surrender tonight. Surrender the fight to fill the space. Surrender the need to control the emotional climate. Surrender the urgency to solve the problems that keep your mind spinning. If you are still wearing headphones, imagine gently removing them now, setting them aside. This is not the end of the song. It is the beginning of the unwritten symphony of your inner life. You are choosing to trust the silence. Listen now, not to the absence of sound, but to the present sounds of your environment. The soft hum of the night, the distant sigh of the wind, the simple shift of the sheets. These are the natural rhythms that have been waiting patiently for your attention. And most intimately, listen to the profound rhythm of your own body. Feel the anchor of your breath, in and out, in and out. This simple, reliable cadence is your inherent music, proof that life is flowing effortlessly, without needing a beat from the outside. Rest in harmony. The end of the search for external music is the discovery of internal peace. Rest now, with the understanding that you are safe in the stillness. You are enough. You do not need to perform, to distract, or to fill the void. The void is not empty. It's full of the potential for rest and healing. Let your body become heavy. Allow your consciousness to soften, letting the ideas drift like clouds on a vast, quiet horizon. You are integrated. You are whole. The true harmony you sought was within you all along. Sleep now and listen to the silence that is your home. Rest deeply.